Hi, I'm Kathy Callahan Brady, and welcome to In the Trenches. And today we've got a very special guest with us. This is Taka Amano. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, Kathy. Thanks.
And so we're going to talk about this amazing product that you have put together, Shochu, and this
Our first brand is Umai.
Umai.
Umai means good, like it's a masculine form of the word good, like tastes good, that's good.
Mm-hmm. You said first product. You're going to do several?
Oh, yeah.
Different kinds?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can talk about that a little bit, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll be fun. So tell people a little bit about this product.
So, we are introducing the newest American spirit to America, right here out of Frederick, Maryland. And guaranteed, this is the smoothest alcoholic beverage you've ever tried.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
It is very,
you.
very good.
Thank you.
So this is what is it that's new about it? Why United
Well,
States?
so, we started in FITSI 3 years ago, right? And when FITSI is a biotechnology incubator, and you remember the whole discussion around this. I mean, I'm a longtime veteran in biotech. I've been in Maryland for 15 years working with the Department of Commerce and, DBED before they were called the Department of Commerce, and working in the biotech space. So I spent 3 years at the biotech incubator in Rockville.
So being there is just coming home.
Right, no, right, exactly. So I know incubators, right?
Yeah.
When it was time for me to start my thing, I needed a biotech incubator. I needed a lab with a sink. And I went to all my friends in Montgomery County and Rockville and Beltsville and Baltimore, and everybody, a lot of them said, distillery, is that really a biotech?
Oh, of course it is.
Right, that's what you said.
Yeah.
But what they said was, I don't know. And what I would say is, if you go to bio, right, in the industry convention, Kentucky and Tennessee every year will tell you that they have the oldest biotech in the country. And I say, well, one of you is the oldest.
Right. Exactly.
But in any case, right, biotech. So you guys got it. Helen Profiter, I was talking to her and said, I'm having trouble finding a space. And she said, I don't know. Well, we have space. Go talk to Kathy. And we talked, and here I am. You got the picture, I think. And so, but what we were doing, this is an incubator. You figure out how to make things, right? I got an EDSP, that's an experimental distilled spirits plant permit. So DSPs, distilled spirits plants permits, are what you have to have from the federal government to be able to make alcohol legally. We got an EDSP. Which is an experimental distilled spirits plant permit. And what that is defined as something where you are figuring out a process or ingredients or both. Later on, when I tell people this in the industry, they say, you got a what? I had one industry expert tell me, EDSPs are a unicorn, Taka. They don't exist. They don't give those out because we all know how to make alcohol, except for Shochu. And so the TTB accepted my argument and said, okay, we'll issue you an EDSP. And so that's what I started with at FITSI.
So what's so different about this compared to other?
So
is it a different
we
process?
have a completely different process.
Okay.
And we had to recreate that process. It's a traditional Japanese process, but we had to recreate it here at FITSI.
Okay.
And it took about 6 months to come up with a product. It's a distilled spirit. It's a clear spirit, as you can see. Single pot distilled, just like a whiskey. But it comes off the still really, really smooth. Why? We have a different process, and the key component of the process is koji. Koji is the Japanese word for aspergillus. In our case, we use Aspergillus luchensis, which is the Shochu unique. All Shochu is made from Aspergillus luchensis. The USDA put Aspergillus luchensis into their database, acceptable products database, for us 5 years ago. So,
sweet.
Yeah.
Very sweet. So you've talked in terms of FITSI quite a bit, and it almost sounds like you were just looking for space.
Right. So I was just looking for space. The truth is,
I always say FITSI is not about the space.
That's right. I honest to God, was looking for a small room that you could lock. I could tell the TTP it was bonded, and I needed a sink. That's what I thought I was looking for. I got in there, started working, and I started interacting with the staff and with you, Kathy, and you started telling me about the programming and some of the mandatory things that we have to do to be a FITSI. And I was flabbergasted because I remember I knew incubators. I had a desk in an incubator for 3 years as a volunteer. I've never seen anybody run an incubator like you do. And
thank you.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, the truth is most incubators that I've run into are a fancy way of selling real estate. It's what it always seemed like to me. And the programming or the support around it, there's government support and that kind of thing. But it always sort of seemed to me like an afterthought, if that, oftentimes. But what you're doing is you're bringing in these advisors, these experts, veterans that have done a lot of the things that we're trying to do and that we are needing to learn about, mistakes that we might make. And you're giving us access to them on a regular basis. And I can't tell you how valuable that's been in my progress.
Yeah. That is the secret sauce of FTSE, and I really believe that that's Frederick. I don't know if you could do it anywhere else. I remember my goal was, by the time I hit year 2, I wanted to have 20. I was like, okay, can I have 20, maybe 25 CEOs that I could find, because I'm not from this area. And it started with Scott Reiser and John Raleigh and PJ Belomo, and God, I'm going to forget a couple, Bob Stone King. There was a small group of us that said, we want to offer startups what they don't have and they can't get anywhere else. And that's people who are in the trenches and been there, done that, to be able to really show them the way and show them all of the mistakes that you're going to make, because we've all made them. And we'll continue to make them. But together as a group, it's not that, it's lonely at the top in terms of it as a CEO. And we think we're brilliant in our own heads. but when you get out there in the real world, not so brilliant.
Right.
But here we hit the 2-year mark and we had 30. That's Frederick.
Right.
And that's what brings this community together. And we've just got some of the smartest individuals. And so, yeah,
case in point, right? About 6 months ago, I applied for the Tedgo Builders Fund. And when that opportunity came along, I had a pitch. I've had several pitches. You've seen several of my pitches. But when that came along, there was some very specific advice I was first of all given of how to go about doing it. And the key piece of advice out of all of that was, so first of all, I did Pitch Creator, which was a resource through FTSE. But the key piece of advice was, hey, you got to get it in front of people, right? Your advisors. And so I took that in earnest. I made appointments with my Strategic Growth Advisory Board advisors, and everybody was very generous. We met, we talked on the phone. I ran my pitch by them. My pitch changed 6 hours before I gave the pitch. We refocused the pitch. And, I got the grant. And the way that I pitched was, it changed dramatically out of the interaction. So.
Yeah. So, one of the other things I was thinking about, it's been almost a year now, because I still look back to seeing this on Volt.
Right.
Volt.
At Volt, yeah.
And that bartender there is just amazing. But how many people are going to be able to get their products?
No, absolutely. So Volt and Brian Voltaggio, the celebrity chef, top chef, Brian Voltaggio was my first customer out of the bat. When I got the product branded, one of our advisors, Jeff Pontius, told me, hey, Taka, I got a couple of people I'd like to introduce you to. One of them turned out to be Brian. I called Brian. Brian came, said, you know what, I'm going to come down and check you out because that's the best way. And he came to our little distillery and we did a little tasting, and Brian said to me, he says, I support local anyway, Taka, but this is good. I'm going to start, I'll definitely use it in the restaurant. So Brian, the Volt restaurant was my first customer, and you can't understand how nice it is to be able to say that, right? My first customer was Volt restaurant.
People would be able to get in there and do that. Right. And then as bartender, what an amazing man.
Damon Shattuck is a head bartender, the bar manager. He's fantastic at what he did at his job. And he creates cocktails that are fantastic, pretty cocktails, befitting to a Volt restaurant. and yet the flavor of my spirit comes through in its cocktails, and that's the hallmark of a great bartender.
Yeah, which is exactly what you need for all the recipes and stuff. And now you've got tons of recipes too,
right?
Don't you? You have them on the website,
right. If you buy a bottle from me, I ask for your email, and what I do is I send you my recipes. So we have some basic recipes that are kind of our standards.
So you've been on this journey for almost 3.5 years. If you were going to give advice back to yourself, you're the very next client that's walking through the Fitzy doors, what would you tell them? What lessons have you learned? What would you have done differently?
There's a couple of kind of easy things and things that I wish that I had found out early on. So it's just what's on my mind right now, because it just happened, is I went to this training seminar that Fitzy had organized, that you had organized, right?
Yeah.
On messaging and branding, and great little event. I didn't know a lot about it, except that I like to go to these things if I can when it's recommended to me by Kathy. But
pushing it a little bit.
So I go and I hear Whitney Hahn, right?
Yeah.
Whitney Hahn, right? In particular, who was talking about this story brand method. I'm looking at this going, I don't know why I haven't heard about this before, because the way that, and it's not things, so this is a thing, right? I've been doing this for 30 years. I know a lot of this information. I've heard of a lot of this information. I know that I'm supposed to do a lot of this information. The part that often doesn't happen is the execution of the information that I know. And I perceive what they're doing there is story brand, is it tells you, here's what you do, right? Like this, right? It's one of those, how come I hadn't heard about this before?
Would have made your life so much easier.
Right. And my branding is changing because of that. As a matter of fact, at the last I do weekly farmers markets, and at the last one, I usually sell 6 or 7 bottles at a farmers market, 3-hour farmers market at Dogfish Head, Gaithersburg, and at the last one. So this last Saturday was the last day of the agricultural fair. So that's where everybody was, right? Other vendors were complaining there's no foot traffic. I sold 12 bottles.
Wow.
And the only thing I changed was my branding. It was my messaging. So that's pretty crazy. That's pretty powerful. So there's that kind of thing. And I like to pay attention to information that's given to me. But there's some key things. And key things when people are doing things that worked, to listen to those things.
Yeah. I wish you'd go around and tell all of the clients that this is the stuff they need to be doing. Because one of the things they might not realize is all of our classes come from the strategic growth and advisory boards.
Right.
And that these are all the different problems that we're seeing clients that are having. Right. And then among our experts, they're the ones who are giving the classes and the advice.
Right.
So they put that one on, and it's just invaluable. I have to try and get them to do it a few more times and see what I can do with that. Right. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for telling us more about this. I can't imagine what you're going to look like in 5 years from now in terms of your business. It's going to be...
By the end of the year, things should be quite different. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know that. You've already outgrown the place, so it's the ribbon cutting time somewhere else, and I know that. It's the thing that we love, but we also hate it. Right. I remember when Rooster moved out, it was just this big hole that they left because... they were just so much fun, and you're a lot like that too. And now we've got DataQuip over at the Root Building.
What's funny is my investor. I was talking to him 2 days ago, and he was talking to his team. And one of the questions that they were texting, actually, I was 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm texting, and they're having a meeting in Tokyo, and he says, "So somebody wants to know. I mean, you're not going to move, are you?" And I told him, I'm pretty sure that I need to rent a 3rd room for one of my processes, but don't have plans to move yet.
You are outgrowing the space, that's for sure. Someone asked me, when do you know when it's time for a client to move? They said it's kind of like pregnancy. It's the 9th month. Every woman is saying, get out. It just becomes uncomfortable after a while. There's just too many. That was Rooster. I mean, he came in with 2. And I think when he left, he had over 20.
Right.
But around 10, it gets really,
right.
where it's just too much for us. But so you guys become wildly successful. So I appreciate it. And I thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching In the Trenches. Go to fitzy.org. Learn more about our investors and our advisors as well as our clients. Have a great day.